Welcome to Empath Revolution, where sensitive souls are gathering to activate their cosmic mission and embrace their role in helping humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness. I'm your host, Stephanie Redfeather, author of the award-winning international best-selling book, The Evolutionary Empath and Empath Activation Cards. In this interview, my special guest is Judith Corvin-Blackburn. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She's a minister, has a doctoral degree in ministry, an award-winning author, internationally known teacher, transpersonal psychotherapist, shamanic minister. For 50 years, she has been inspiring people to step into their joy, purpose, and inner authority. Her passion is to guide individuals to reclaim their true soul nature so together we can transform the planet Earth into this loving, peaceful, creative place that it's meant to be. She's authored 4 books: Activate Your 5D Frequency, Empowering the Spirit, Journey to Wholeness, and her latest release that will be, latest, soon to be released, coming out in 2005, Entering Earth's New Reality. Today, Judith is going to talk to us about navigating higher frequency energies as a multidimensional empath. I'm already buzzing. Welcome, Judith.
Hey, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. Thank
Yeah.
you for doing the work you do. Thank you for all of the great support really we give each other in this journey and
Yes.
in this mission.
Absolutely, yes. And for those of you watching, Judith and I have been friends for a long time. We're in a mastermind group together that instead of mastermind, we call it our Master Heart group. And so I'm just so delighted to highlight Judith's work with the 5D frequencies, because that is really synonymous with, empaths being here to help humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness, and the 5D frequencies are where we are headed. So Judith, go.
Well, okay, I got to jump in because yes, the 5D frequencies are where we're headed, and we're going to incorporate 6D as well. And that's really the latest book that you time traveled and said it was coming out in 2005. But,
Did I?
but I think we can do 25.
55, sorry.
um, where to start? We're in such an amazing transition, while simultaneously 3D is a mess. Just to state both the obvious and really an understatement. So as this old world is dying, we're really being called on, those of us who have come in with the consciousness of our mission, to do whatever we're able to do to uplift our frequency, our own frequency first. It's sort of like the oxygen mask on the airplane. So we can together in this 5D 6D birthing team, right, uplift the energy of the planet. And I do think, Stephanie, that we're the pioneers, and the people that are drawn to these summits are also being pioneers. The people that are drawn to our book, we're all leading the way, and that comes with a lot of challenge. So I think I'll stop and let you ask a question, and then I will say more.
Yes, yes. So, this your previous book and the one that you're writing, I know, go into a lot more detail about these different dimensions. And so it's, we're not going to have time to go into great detail here, but if you could just give sort of the Reader's Digest version of, because we talk about 5D, right? It comes off the tongue and everybody shakes their head and goes, yeah, okay, yes, we're ascending. But if you could just encapsulate, what does it really mean?
Okay. Well, it's actually so simple that in some ways it could be discounted, because the primary characteristics of the 5th dimension is unconditional love. unity consciousness, and unbridled creativity. That's in some ways it. But unconditional love, that's no easy feat, especially unconditional love of the self.
Mhm.
And the other piece when you move into that unconditional love consciousness is that you lead with the heart. The mind or our brain certainly are just resources, can create structure, but we no longer, I always think back to my childhood when people would say, use your head. And now we say,
Right.
follow your heart, pay attention, your heart lead. So, um, and it's a frequency. Love is a frequency. It is a frequency that is amazingly powerful and protective, which I think that we've been so conditioned not to know that.
Mhm.
That people go into this feeling of love and think they're going to be vulnerable, when in fact it's the opposite. This is the strength really of the feminine. It's also a more feminine dimension.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the other piece that happens is, and 4D is a whole other deal and a whole other show, so to speak. Because there's a lot to be said of how you, but from my perspective, we're going from being 3D, 4D humans. The fourth dimension is really the archetypical, the archetypes, the emotions, the spiritual, but it's gotten messed up over the last 12,000 years. And therefore, part of the way to get to these higher frequencies authentically or fully is to know how to navigate through that. As we're learning that, because emotional healing is up pretty much for everybody in the conscious community, if you will. The becoming more and more embodied is up. That's all taking this 3D, 4D energy to a higher frequency. And when you get to 5D, we are not just becoming 5D, we're becoming 5D, 6D humans. 5D is more physical, like the third dimension is, but it's lighter. It's actually a different, according to Barbara Hand-Clow, it's a different speed of light. And so we ourselves will be vibrating and do vibrate more and more quickly. We begin to glow. And the more we get there, the more radiant and light beings we become. However, creating and manifesting on 3D, you've got to use the sixth dimension, which is the quantum field.
Mm.
And it's Plato's world of forms. I mean, again, obviously, I just wrote the book on it, so I could talk a lot, but I will try to do the Reader's Digest version, which is a great metaphor for Let me see. Let's see here. What are every thought, every quality, every feeling, every being, every object exists in an energy form in the sixth dimension. And what manifests in our third dimensional physicality is what has the most, I'll use a social media metaphor, the most hits, the most focus, the most consciousness, where our beliefs activated the most. There's an interactive quality. All of this exists anyway. It's this great field of potential. Starwolf talks about Grandma Twyla, calling it the field of plenty, right? So it all exists there. And when we have a thought that maybe isn't quite in that same form in 3D, 4D, that pops in or that reconfigures. There's an extra configuration. So there's an interactive process between 3D and 6D.
Mm.
And this is how we're going to change the world. Okay. So, to get to, we want world peace, right? But yet we have this whole, no, let's not have, let's have chaos and brutality and war, right? It's hard to even talk about. It's like so insane. But what happens is, as humans, we carry a number of different belief systems. The old paradigm belief system, which has been gaining more and more intensity over the last 12,000 years, is that war is inevitable. Add that to the idea that somehow it's a good thing, that somehow it causes, you're more free. And there's a whole spin on why we have to have war. Well, that exists since 6D. Then come along, thankfully, the 60s and 70s, when we were protesting the Vietnam War, all of a sudden we realized peace was possible. And we started collectively holding those images of peace. So both of those things exist in 6D. And what's going to show up on the planet is what we can activate most strongly. So as we're going through our evolution of this, right, we're having to clear out those old beliefs that are really hanging on because they've had a lot of strength, a lot of energy put on them. Right. But as we understand that, and as that we get really focused on, okay, time for peace, time to get away from this insanity.
Yeah.
And there's enough people focusing, clearing, having cleared their own field and focusing enough on bring peace in. It's time for peace. It will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, we talk about humanity is collectively ascending in consciousness. You talk about creating these higher consciousness realities. What do you see as the biggest challenge to creating this new higher consciousness, both for ourselves individually, but also, collectively for the planet?
Well, one great question, Stephanie, and I'm smiling because I'm thinking of, and I've put this in the book too, by the way, one of your empath cards, Master of Trillions. In the way I've interpreted it, we have these rogue cells. So, maybe we have 5 billion rogue cells when we're moving forward, going, yes, it's time for peace, it's time for harmony, it's time to realize we're unity consciousness. We're part of everything, everything is a part of us. And the cells in our body that are still firing the old beliefs will go, no, that's dangerous. It's impossible, and carry all of that, for lack of a better way to say it, really all the old crap we've been taught from pretty much the time we came in this lifetime. So I think that's the biggest impediment, is how to bring that into consciousness so that we can work with it, transform it, love it into relaxing and allowing this new world to come forward. The other piece, of course, is the polarization, right? Because, all right, we're all polarized. Does that mean we all want different things? Well, what I had to go through in my own process is when we expand from the heart, it doesn't matter what your views are. If your heart really, one is really holding that unconditional love, and two, your intent is to be part of helping humanity and not just a private agenda. And people all over the globe are waking up to this, but the impediment is the forces that are benefiting or believing somehow their life is safer from the old beliefs.
Yeah. And it feels important to diverge or take a tangent for just a second, that you talked about the importance of clearing these belief systems. And it's we've both been therapists, coaches, of different styles, and so I'm sure you had a similar experience in working with so many people and students that when you first start doing this work, it can feel overwhelming. The strength of the feelings, what's unresolved, what's been shoved down for a long time. Like I relate it to like what happens when you put your thumb over the end of a hose and the pressure backs up. And as soon as you take your thumb off, the water just comes squirting out at high pressure. And that's what all of these stopped up or suppressed belief systems and unhealed pieces can feel like. But I just want to encourage people listening, and I want you to weigh in on this too, that the pressure will slow down. It's not going to be this intense. If you can, instead of contracting when you feel it all coming up, to make space for it to exist and to be with it, as scary as hell as that sounds, and especially if you're not used to it, the idea of being with it can almost feel like, oh my God, this thing's going to kill me. But it is the way through. And so what do you have to say about that phenomenon?
Oh, well, what we're really talking about is not just the beliefs, but the feelings that come with the beliefs, the emotions,
Mhm.
and how to clear that emotional body. I think that people experience it differently. What I always do when I work with clients is give strategies. And I know you're very strategic as well, Stephanie. So even though I don't know, we haven't shared how we do it, I'm quite sure we do some similar kinds of things. And everybody's going to be a bit unique about that. Um, in those strategies, it's okay to understand that you don't have to open the floodgates all at once.
Yes.
It's okay to open the door a little, see what's there,
Yeah.
find out what's scary and what you can do about the fears. So that there's can be sort of preparation and foundation put in place, which I think is hugely important as we open empathically, right? Otherwise, you're going to get, talk about floodgates. So, because then it's not just your feelings, but the feelings of this very hurt, wounded collective.
Yes, absolutely. And as empaths, I think we all feel it to a certain degree, but some empaths are just naturally tuned into the collective energies.
Yes.
Mhm.
I also think, I have kind of a unique experience. When I started opening more clearly empathically, which happened for me, I don't know, I'm old. It's probably been 30 years or more now. But what I'd find was that I'd be in a session and I could feel people's feelings. And it is very useful, right? So if you're angry, you may not even know that you're angry, or you may not know why. I'll get a certain feeling and I'll be able to share that. And then we can figure out what's going on. So as that was happening, again, it was great for working with clients. It really helped enormously for them. But I hadn't experienced it much outside of being a therapist, right? Outside of the role where I knew how to protect myself. So one holiday, during the Christmas holidays, I had to go back to this big box store to return something. And I'm standing in line, and all of a sudden I feel this huge wave of anxiety.
Mm.
And I'm like, this is not mine. And the next thing I thought was, I have to learn to stop this.
Mhm.
So I was able to create an intent. And I know not, I don't believe I'm at a high level empath where you're really, it's much more difficult for some empaths than others. Let me say this, but I also urge people not to rule it out. I was able to put out a very strong intent, and that was it.
Mhm.
I was able to keep my gifts when they were useful, because that wasn't useful.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think, coming through with that clear intention, let me use this gift to help,
Mhm.
not to take me down.
Right. Yes.
And, and the other thing, I mean, at this point, I was also old enough that I had done a lot of my own emotional work and
Mhm.
a lot of my own emotional healing. So there were not a lot of places that it would tap into. if I've got a lot of trigger points inside of me that I'm not aware of,
Yeah.
and then I come up with the collective that hits those trigger points. That's right. And again, I know that this is your work as well. So
Mhm.
it was a lot easier because of the timing for me in my own development.
Mhm. Yeah, I get that.
But
Mhm.
I do want to put it out because I think that I don't think you have to suffer as an empath.
Yeah, yeah, and it, one of the things I share in my book is that just because of where we have been recently and where we are, even though we are ascending in consciousness, we're still at a level where most of our learning happens from trauma and drama and chaos, and especially in our childhood years, because most of us don't have the teachers, the mentors, the parents that are conscious, that are aware, that are operating at that higher frequency. And so we live from the unhealthy aspects of our gifts until we finally recognize, oh, hey, I'm sensitive, I'm an empath, I feel everybody else's stuff. Okay, now I'm aware of it, and now I can start doing my work and accumulating skills and tools so that we don't have to suffer as an empath.
Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the 5D60, you and I have had a lot of conversations. This is an exciting topic for us to talk about, is just the star nations, right? And the ancient civilizations, Lemuria, Atlantis. I know I am very connected to Egypt and have had many lifetimes there, so all of this seeding that has happened on the planet. So talk about that in relation to the ascension of consciousness.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. Yes. And it's interesting, Stephanie, because I know you identify a lot with the Syrians, right?
Yes.
And I do think the Egyptians, the awakened Egyptians, ancient, we're talking around 12,000 years, um, were very Syrian culture, as was Atlantis, a little bit more Syrian than Pleiadian, where I identify more with Pleiadians culture, which is more feminine, and we're all blending, of course. Um, but I have really strong connection with Egypt. And when I traveled in Egypt on a shamanic journey in 2005, without really having any background, um, and certainly not in ascension or um, understanding multidimensionality in terms of a vertical access,
Mhm.
what I found just by my internal experience, but also there are clues all over the ancient temples, is they were a 5D civilization. We had a wonderful Egyptologist that talked about these pyramids were not made from slave labor with pulleys, and those stones were moved through anti-gravitational rods.
Mhm.
And going to one of the temples far away from Giza, where the pyramids are, there's a hieroglyph of two men standing across from each other, holding these rods, and the
Levitating. Mm.
they were levitating the huge blocks that make up the pyramid, right? So it's been there, it's all there. Anyway, um, so in even the way the Egyptian Neteru works, that the what we believe happens, and we're still uncovering so much of this. But well, let me backtrack a little. Let me just briefly talk about Lemuria and Atlantis, because Egypt really came directly from Atlantis, from everything we know. So Lemuria was the earliest civilization that we know of. There are hints that in Africa and other parts of the world, there may have been very highly developed, high frequency civilizations that disappeared. We don't know that yet. But what we do know more and more, because more of us are having memories, is that Lemuria, which is in the area of the Pacific, kind of between Hawaii and maybe Easter Island or something around there, that there was a continent, and that and this is something that I have read from a channeling on the internet. So none of this is gospel, but it really resonated for me. The Pleiadians, the Syrians, the Lyrans, and the Arcturians got together and decided they'd pop into this planet and create some kind of civilization here. There may have been some higher reason, which I don't know what to tell you about that yet. But they created this very loving and I think very simple civilization. Unlike the Atlanteans, they didn't have high technology, but they were in total harmony. They were really functioning in this 5D, 6D consciousness where they knew thought creates. They were able to put together what they needed. Each of those star nations have their own gifts. As an example, the Pleiadians tend to be really heart-centered. The Syrians are very intellectual. The Arcturian, I don't know as much about the Lyrans. The Arcturians are technological. They have this sort of brilliance with that. Maybe to see what they would create. And the society lasted quite a while. Maybe, again, this is not gospel. I'm saying 50, 60,000 years, maybe more. At some point it went down. It's not as clear to me why Lemuria went down, but simultaneously younger, but a civilization that existed at the same time toward later Lemuria, Atlantis developed. I don't know as much about its inception, but it was also very high frequency, much more masculine. Lemurian is much more feminine, into grand technology, but also into this law of oneness. They understood everything is interconnected. We're all part of each other. They were moving in a loving way as well, until they got messed up 3 times. Okay, I won't go into all of those details. And again, these are, we're just beginning to put this together. Edgar Cayce brought the awareness of Atlantis into the 20th century. Plato wrote about Atlantis 2,000 years ago. And he's like one of the fathers of Western civilization. And somehow all of his wisdom got lost or misinterpreted or weirdly. I mean, he was talking about the 6th dimension, and he was writing about Thoth, who is also called Thoth or Thoth, Thoth, having come from Atlantis when Atlantis literally went under the sea and people were fleeing. Groups too, I think, that knew ahead of time that was going to happen. There was a migration to Egypt to bring the information and bring the consciousness that they had, that the higher parts of Atlantis were living from. And that's where we seeded that, all of that in ancient Egypt. And I think that Egypt is the most, again, awakened Egypt 12,000 years ago, Egypt before the pharaohs. This is what people tend to not get. Okay, let me see if I can pull back to that. When they were seated on Atlantean consciousness, and they were very much in balance, like their whole Neteru, their whole, gods and goddesses are all based on the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine being in balance. And in my own meditations, I saw the society when it was brilliantly colorful. And even now, have you been to Egypt yet? Okay, so you know what those temples are like. And this is like what, 10, 12,000 years later, and they've been, vandalized and right? And they're still amazing. Yeah. And if you can imagine what they were like when they were first built with gemstone paint, So what I saw was this incredibly colorful, vibrant world. And people were actually hovering a little bit above, they were like hover, hover vehicles without the vehicle, kind of hovering and moving along that landscape. But if you think about it, as we grow lighter and lighter with that fifth dimensional frequency, it could well happen. Of course, the essence, the piece that's more important is these were peaceful, loving, conscious societies where all life was valued.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it went through
where
this.
we're headed. It is, these talking about these ancient civilizations. And if you look at the books that are being written and documentaries and show, I mean, this is all just coming up so much because I think we're reaching that level. We're just starting to access the high enough frequency that we're able to access the way I think of it, like a morphic field, is just this intelligence has always been here. It's always been held in trust, waiting for us to be able to reach it, access it, pull from it, interpret it, and understand it. And so that's why connecting to these ancient civilizations and societies is so important and meaningful, because it's like our ancient future.
Yes, 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 100%. And when you talk about morphic fields, that's the sixth dimension. Those are like the mists in the sixth dimension. It's, so we even have science backing this up, but because morphic fields are very much a part of quantum physics. But again, because of all the old beliefs, people are having trouble, finding their way through. I mean, I think we are finding our way, but again, it can be a hard curriculum.
It is, and I'd like to just throw a term out there, and this phenomenon is known by several different terms, but walking between the worlds. From my shamanic tradition, that's one of the ways that we describe it is, if you can think about it as a foot in the 3D and a foot in the 5D, that needs to be said out loud and acknowledged, that we are all these we are multidimensional beings, but the everyday reality is we are walking between the worlds, and it takes skill and practice
Yes.
to do that.
Yes, yes. And thus these summits, thus these books, thus the work that we and so many others are doing to help with that. And that's a really important way to look at it, Stephanie, and also to help people understand that at times we're going to be propelled into one world, into the 3D world, and have to again find our way back to the 5D world. And sometimes we can walk them simultaneously.
Yes.
One of the images I really love is that of nesting, the Russian nesting dolls, and imagining those as various dimensions. And to think about looking through the eyes of the 3D nesting doll and the 5D nesting doll, like opening windows on your computer. So they can be opened at the same time. We're not able to sustain that yet, where we're fully walking with that. But that's basically what it is. We're not only walking between the worlds, we're walking in those worlds.
Yes.
And
and navigating it just feels important to bring a little conversation to that, because especially being empaths, we're already sensitive. We already perceive things other people don't. And it can be very disorienting, and it can cause us to doubt ourselves, like, where am I? What's happening? What am I feeling? So it's like you're feeling your stuff, you're feeling other people's stuff, and then you're in this dimension and you're in that dimension, and then you're feeling the collective, and then it can just be like, I want out, stop the ride.
The loud scream, I know I chose this, but right.
So I mean, we're laughing about it. We're laughing about it now, but we've each had our own experience of sitting in the corner sucking our thumb and rocking back and forth. So Judith, I want to ask you specifically about the Ka body. I know that's a term that I've heard a lot of times used in the context of ancient Egyptian mystery schools or magic. It's another term for the energy body, but please talk about that a little bit.
Okay. And again, this is what's coming through me. People may have different interpretations of it, but to me, the Ka body is the idealized energetic blueprint of our soul that is literally in the sixth dimension in geometric shapes. Okay. It's a little hard to describe in words like this, but if we were to, let me see if I can find a clear way to describe it. I think I'm just going to have to start with, when I envision my own Ka, I see these geometric shapes, I see color, and I see a being sitting in the middle. And to me, what that is it's part of my own soul that is in as idealized a state as it can at that level of consciousness. There are higher levels of consciousness, but we have hard enough time with 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. And that part, it's connected to me, but in my conditioning, I've been disconnected from it. So as I'm reclaiming who I really am and knowing how to use it, in a focused way. So, let's say I might be an empath and I'm feeling all sorts of things and I don't know where I am. And I think this is, something that empaths struggle a lot with. The more one as an empath is able to heal and more know what's theirs and what's not theirs, when you get a sense of what's theirs, what's yours, then envisioning that that also exists in this higher frequency world that's holding all of your soul potential in this incarnation. And that as we clear and open, it's able to connect with us on a deeper and deeper level and become more and more part of how we walk through our lives. And Barbara Hand-Clow in her Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, which is just getting re-released, talked about it as how it also allows us, the more we have our Ka, the more we connect with our Ka body, the more we're able to modulate our other bodies, our emotional body, our mental body, and our etheric or spiritual body. So there's a lot, again, I don't want to over detail it, but it's us at our most brilliant, fabulous energy configuration.
Yeah, I love that simple definition that your Ka body really is the highest blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the idea of using that as a tool for empaths. If you lose yourself, if you get knocked off your center, if you are trying to figure out where you are amidst the chaos, to connect with that Ka body and just allow that blueprint to download and just sort of realign yourself.
Yeah, I love the way you said that, Stephanie, too. What I saw is how we allow it then to seep into all of our cells and just bring it all down. Yeah.
Yes. So Judith, I know that you have a guided meditation that you would like to take us through to have an experience of connecting with higher frequency beings. So I'd love to turn this over to you for a few minutes to please take us through that experience.
Okay. All righty. So let me get clear here and open. So what I'd like is all those of you listening and watching, just go ahead and close your eyes and put all your attention onto the act of breathing so that you become totally aware as you exhale. And totally aware as you inhale. And you allow your breath to get deeper and deeper. On the exhale, releasing any concerns, releasing any distractions. Just allowing all of that to come out with the breath. And on the inhale, imagine that you can draw in tiny golden spirals of light, filled with love, filled with consciousness. Just draw them in with the breath. Begin to feel them disseminate to every cell in your body, both relaxing and soothing, and also awakening, creating a cellular vibrancy. And keeping again your attention on the breath. With each exhale, releasing more and more tension, more and more concerns. With each inhale, drawing in that clear, open energy that's filled with these golden spirals. Just allow yourself to stay with that for a moment or two. And then I'd like you to rub your hands together. And once they get warmed up, to put your hands over your heart space, over your heart chakra, your human heart, your high heart. Allow that chakra, allow that heart, that beautiful, radiant heart of yours to open more and more, knowing it's safe to be the loving, radiant being you truly are. Allowing yourself to feel into this love. And when you do, bathe yourself in it. Just allow that love to radiate from the very top of your head, all the way down to the very tips of your toes. And take another moment to send that love to all the people in your life and to all beings around our globe. Now I'd like you to imagine that you're on a beautiful mountain road. The sky is a vibrant blue. The sun is warming your hair and your skin. The birds are chirping and singing and calling to one another. You take a few steps and perhaps you feel or hear a twig or two crack as you walk. You can smell the fragrances of the fresh air and the pines. You might want to go ahead and touch things, touch the rocks and touch the tree trunks. Touch the earth and just feel that energy for a moment or two. And then I'd like you to continue up the mountain road. And as you do, you see before you an opening. And as you get closer, you see something very unusual. There is a waterfall of light, of golden light, standing in front of you. And it's calling to you. You can feel it. It's asking you to come to stand inside of it. Go ahead and do that. And just begin to feel this golden light wash away any fears, wash away any doubts, just for now. Wash away any concerns. And after it washes all of that away, it begins to light you up. You begin to feel this golden light, opening your heart more and more, opening a sense of joy inside of you and lightness. Whenever you feel ready, you come out the other side. And in front of you is this beautiful grove of trees. And all of these humans are sitting in a big circle. And while you recognize them as humans, they're all radiating this incredible light. And as you begin to tune in to the energy and the feelings here, suddenly you realize that you don't have to be afraid anymore. That all of these energies in this beautiful grove of these high frequency humans is only here to give you love, support, to activate that inner divine core that all of us carry within us. And there's a seat for you, and you sit down and you join the group. And perhaps you all hold hands for a moment or two. And as you do, and as you allow these frequencies and these feelings to permeate you more and more, you actually look out over the grove and you see this village or this town that is radiating, shimmering light from all of its structures. And you realize that you are in a whole new field of consciousness. You have stepped into a whole new world. It's a world where everyone is empathic and healthy. Everyone is feeling their highest frequency of love. The ego agendas have been left behind, washed away in the golden waterfall of light. And now there is only clear intent that all our gifts be used as a team. All of our uniqueness joins together in this team to keep creating a more loving, a more highly conscious, a more creative world that will not only affect our planet, but will reach out into the universe, the multiverse, the galaxies. And it's easy, it doesn't feel overwhelming, but it just feels great. And so as you're vibrating together with this other group of your kind, a guide suddenly pops in front of you. And you don't feel surprised because that's the kind of world you've stepped into. And the guide has a gift for you. And so reach your hands out and allow the guide to put a package in your hand. And they explain to you that you can go back with this package, and this package will help you stay connected to this energy. And the more of us that stay connected, the closer and closer we become to creating this world for everyone. And so take a moment and open up the package. You might see an object inside, a message, a word, an image, a color. take some time to feel into this lovely message, even if you don't understand it fully, that your guide has given you. And then go ahead and thank them. And send love and appreciation to this beautiful circle. And when you feel ready, still holding your package, go ahead and return back through the waterfall of light, back through the mountain road, down to the place you began, and finally to bring yourself back to the room you're sitting in. Take a moment and really think about that experience, how it felt, what might be the message for you. And when you have time, you may want to go ahead and journal on it and keep reflecting on this package to help you more and more operate at this highest level of your empathy and of your heart. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Judith. So, so powerful. I immediately went to Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a place to go, right?
Yes. So as we close, I want to make sure people know about the free gift that you are offering. You've got a downloadable meditation about activating your 5D light codes. Can you just say a couple words about that?
Yeah, it's just it's in some ways similar to the meditation we did, but you know, you get to go out to a beach instead of the mountains, and literally pull in consciously photons to activate your cells and to help you get more in touch with your soul mission. And all you need to do to get that is to get onto my website, which is probably being shown somewhere. But anyway,
Yeah.
empoweringthespirit.com. And there should be a pop-up where you can subscribe to my newsletter. If not, go to the area that says subscribe. Once you subscribe, that will show up in your inbox.
Fantastic. Thank you, Judith. I'm so grateful. There's so much more I know that we could talk about, and so I hope this has whet people's appetites to go find, more of your work and to just do some contemplating about, looking at our role as empaths, being here to help humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness and incorporate that with these understandings of 5D and 6D and beyond. So, yes.
And also I have another gift if people are interested,
yes,
which is I'm offering a 4-week Zoom Starseed class, Embracing Your Starseed Nature. And if you sign up after having watched the summit, you can put in code 150, which means you actually have to, I guess it's written down
all
so
that'll be
people, okay, so read it. And if you're interested, you'll save a lot of money and you'll have a great time. Okay.
yes. So just, you'll be able to get all this information on Judith's speaker page on the Telesummit website. So, all right, Judith, thank you so much for your wisdom, for all of the beautiful information that you've shared and all the ways that you've activated us to think about these things.
And thank you, Stephanie, for being you and having me on this. Okay.
You're welcome.
We will connect soon. Love to all.